So facing rather uncertain times ahead, and I think it really, really is important that we all pull together, draw together. We are all facing the same thing. We are all facing uncertainty. We are all facing the fears of our business and our clients and our customers, patients, not coming into the business. So I want to share with you three specific things. The first one is what I believe you should have in your message, so your communication message to your patients. The second thing is some ways that you may be able to communicate that message. And thirdly, I want to give you some ideas of perhaps some different ways that you could do things and using digital technology. So that's what my focus is digital communication, digital marketing. So how can we utilize that in this type of situation? So the first thing is about communication. I think in situations like this, the key is to communicate. Even if there is nothing to communicate or you believe there is nothing to communicate, I think very often that is still important to say. I think the temptation sometimes is that we remain completely quiet because we don't know what to say. When we do that, our customers start to come to their own conclusions about what perhaps we are thinking as businesses. So I think it's really important to communicate, even if that communication is right at this moment in time. We are in the process of formulating our strategy and we will get back to you by the end of today, the week, tomorrow. So I think the first thing is to communicate, even if you believe there is nothing to communicate. Let people know that you are working on the problem, that you are actively doing something. The second thing is to let people know that things may change. All we can do is we can go on the evidence that is present to us at the moment and the advice that is present to us at the moment. And that evidence and advice may change rapidly. So I think it's really important also to let people know, to let our patients know that this is our advice for today, or even for now, this is what we are doing now, but we reserve the right to change that based on evidence and based on circumstances as the situation evolves. Your patients will be understandably nervous and anxious, and I'm going to come on to those different types of patients in a moment. But I think that another message to communicate is one of reassurance, to reassure patients that you are looking after yourselves, your team, and those patients. I think finally to let patients know that you are actively seeking out information and are involved in this type of community. If patients think that you are sat in a silo and not doing anything, that's not very reassuring. So it's a very reassuring thing to say to your patients that you are actively involved in this type of community where you are seeking and sharing information. So to summarize, the four things that I think we need to be communicating is to communicate everything, even if you believe there is nothing to communicate. To let patients know that you are going on information and advice available now, and it may change. That you are reassuring the patients that you are doing everything that you can, and that you are connected to a series of resources whereby you are seeking out that information all of the time. Now, I think you have three potential different types of patients to communicate to. You have patients who have appointments booked but have yet to begin a course of treatment. So I think about the message you want to give to those patients. What are your policies? And I'm not going to advise you on your policies. That's for other people more specialized to do that. But to communicate to patients who have appointments booked, what's the message to them? Appointments to patients who have appointments booked, and more importantly, are mid-treatment. So you may have patients that have treatments booked but have not yet started, That's one group. The next group is patients that are booked that are patient that have treatments that have started and are mid-treatment. The way we treat those two groups of people may be different. And we may have groups of patients who are in pain, so need immediate treatment. How are we going to deal with those three different groups of patients? I would advise you have strategies of how you're going to deal with those patients and communicate. So now I want to move on to the second thing I want to talk about is to communication. How can we communicate that message to those groups of people? Going on benchmarking on all of the different ways of communicating that I use. So I just use digital communication. The one that gets the best response all of the time, pretty much without fail, is email. So I would start by using email, and I would make sure that the title of that email is engaging enough that patients are going to want to open it. Even if you start it with something like COVID-19, what we are doing and what you need to know. So make sure the title of that email is relevant to the email and that people are going to want to open it, because we want people to see this communication. So email is definitely the way that I would move forwards. With regards to GDPR, my feeling on this is this is not marketing. This is letting patients know about their health, and therefore, even if they have opted out of marketing, my feeling on this is that it is still okay to send those emails, even if they have opted out, because this is not marketing. This is public health announcements. The second thing to use is social media. So your Facebook streams, your Twitter streams, anywhere you can get information out. You may also want to consider using YouTube and videos, as videos can be a really good way to hand out information for people that prefer to see something visual and listen to your message rather than read it. And of course, if you use video with YouTube, you can embed that into the email. And the final thing, I just want to give you just a couple of ideas of perhaps how you could do things slightly differently. So certainly I've got one practice now that is going to video consultations for patients in pain. So I'm just going to share my screen with you here. And one of the things you might want to use is Join Me. So join.me, you can set up a free account, and you can do free meetings. I have a paid account. It's relatively low cost. So Join Me may be something. I know there is Zoom, and there are all other forms of doing this. Skype is another way. So you may want to think about setting up some form of facility for video conferencing. You might want to consider using, if you don't have an online booking appointment facility, you might want to use Calendly. Now, Calendly can integrate with Google, can integrate with the Google Calendar. Now, I use this all of the time. To give you an example of how Calendly could be used, so you might want to say, we are going to be doing emergency video conferencing for patients in pain once a day between the hours of 9 and 10 or 9 and 11, something like that. And patients can book in for that online. Calendly is a really great way of doing that. Here's an example. This is one that I did. So this is for an implant's opening day, but you can set this up for free. Calendly, once you log in, this is all free. They give you a widget that you can embed on your website. You can set times and dates. So you can say, well, I'm going to open my appointment book between 9 and 11 for video conferencing every single day. Use Join Me or Zoom or Skype for the video conferencing, and patients can book that request using Calendly. And as you can see, it says no times because this is closed now, but effectively what they will do is they will scroll through to find the time of the appointment they want, click on book appointment. It then will synchronize with Google Calendar, so you can look at a Google Calendar, or you can look at the calendar directly in Calendly, and it just allows patients to book those Skype appointments very quickly and easily, and you can do that separate to your patient appointment booking system at the practice. So there's just a couple of ways that you may want to use technology to facilitate these free video conferencing or these emergency appointments via conferencing. So I hope that helps, and I'm sure this will change over the coming days, but I'm here to help in any way I can. Cheers now. Bye.